Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all guns. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Sean Thompson. And this is the Sean Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white, and blue.
The youngest country with the highest quality of life in the shortest period of time. How did it happen? We're built on a philosophy of the Enlightenment. We're built on property rights of the citizen, not the government. My next guest spent his entire life studying this. He is somebody who is very, very impressive, not just because he's a best-selling author, of which he is, of some tremendous books. We still hold these truths, rediscovering our principles. He was the executive editor at the Heritage Guide for the Constitution. He now is a professor in constitutional government and dean of the Van Andel Graduate School of Government at Hillsdale College, where I wanted my kids to go, but it's very hard to reason with Italian women from Chicago. He is Matthew Spalding, author of the new book, The Making of the American Mind, The Story of Our Declaration of Independence. It's out now. Professor Spalding, how are you?
I'm fine. Good to be with you.
It's something to realize, because this drives me insane, how we have not only become unmoored from the principles of the Enlightenment,
right,
but the Constitution now, as I see it, is almost a drive-by. It doesn't. I don't know where it exists. I cannot figure out what government policy is actually constitutional, let alone attached to the principles of the Enlightenment. I can't figure one.
Right. No, we're unmoored is the right word. We're kind of floating down this river of modernity with no guidance at all. But I think it's important to realize the extent to which we talk about the protections of the Constitution, the great liberties that it preserves, which have been the heartbeat of great American growth and the things that have built up this great country. But behind that Constitution is required this deeper mooring for the nation to succeed. And this is the 250th anniversary, so it's a great time to rethink it again. But the Declaration of Independence, this beautiful document that we think of and we quote once in a while when we see, sales going on and people reference it. But that document is a turning point in all of the Western history, at which point it now becomes this idea which had been percolating on all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans, but up through British constitutionalism and then Locke and Sidney and early kind of modern thinking into this idea that all men are created equal, government is based on consent, and thus government should be limited by a constitution. But in order to limit that government, you've got to have it grounded in some concept of what it means to be human and what it means to be equally human, such that we're not killing each other and we all have an equal right to consent to our laws.
Well, and we also have to recognize we are living through the dissolving of civilization, the destruction of the principles of the individual consciousness and really the quality of life of man. Who subscribes to government supremacy are the self-loathing, right? The people who are defeated before they try, the people who have no philosophy themselves. And we are a country built on philosophy. And I am wondering, I attribute it to maybe the school system. Okay, fine. But still, what squashes the individual quest for knowledge and appreciation of who he is? The thinking of why it is so important to embrace the principles of the Enlightenment, of I think, therefore I am. And you don't have to know who Rene Descartes is to know what that means. I think, therefore I am. That's gone in collectivism. And as I live through the collapse of my once great city, this is what happens through our country.
Right.
These are the self-loathing who embrace self-loathingness.
Well, so it would a key the exact point you're making there is can be somewhat simply put this way: the American founding, and it includes Enlightenment thinkers, but Greek and Roman, this whole grand tradition of the rise of thinking in the West, believed that man's mind and thus his body was metaphysically free and thus politically free. He could consent, he could rule himself and self-govern. Modern thinking, postmodernism, radical progressivism, these ideas today all centers around the notion that it's subjectivism. It's whatever I want, whatever I claim, and thus the only way to have political principles is somehow to collectivize it into something else. And so it's prone towards what? I mean, we see it, historically in socialism and communism, and then we see it developing in this idea of a centralized state, rather than trusting the individual being able to govern themselves, which is the central, most important idea behind the whole the radicalness, if you will, of the American Revolution. We can govern ourselves, not the king, not parliament, not some legislature thousands of miles away. We are self-governing. Therefore, we can have the rule of law, we can have property rights, we can have commerce, we can have all these things such that we live our own lives, and we have our own families and properties and homes, and you go from there.
So you must, it's infuriating to me to watch this philosophy of what we are, sovereign and individuals with protections that are supposed to prevent government from weaponizing policy against the individual, in theory, right? That's what it's supposed to be. Right. So many years ago, when the movement of the modern Marxist mafia began, this phrase of democracy, 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 this was not a misspeak. This was not an accident. It was to erode the principle of the republic, was it not?
That's right. What we have is a republic, which is different than merely a democracy. Democracy is just whatever the heck the majority wants, and it can go all over the place, and it can kind of run wild. A republic, representation, but republic in the American sense depends upon a precursor, a previous recognition of inherent rights in nature that each individual has. And if they don't have those rights, no majority can take away those rights. They're unalienable, as it says in the Declaration. And that is absolutely crucial. And it's not that we've forgotten these things. There's been a movement to push against those claims that's led to the kind of the rise of the modern administrative state. You're absolutely right about that. The question is there something inherent in human nature, which was the claim of the founders? And I think that it is true. And thus there is a hope here, right? Inherently, human beings don't like to be ruled. They can be miseducated, they can be misled, they can be administered, all these things. But when you start scratching the surface, most people don't like this, right? They are naturally self-governing human beings. That's how most people live their lives. But what I love, our current political system does not reflect human nature.
Well, what I love about the title of your book, and I'm going to read it, I promise you, and I'm going to buy it when we go to break. The Making of the American Mind. This is my advantage. I could not. Right. I call you Professor Spalding because I probably couldn't have gotten into any school you were a professor at. I'm the product of meatheads, right? My father was a bricklayer, my mother a beautician, my grandfather owned an auto parts store, the other one was a butcher. But each one of those people and everybody they were related to were so proud to be an individual, an American with an unbreakable, there was shame. You were never going to be part of the collective ever. Whether they promised to buy you a food, they promised to buy your house, they promised to buy your car. That's the difference, the flaw of character. And when you say American mind, I believe there's still a tremendous amount of Americans, but they are detached from character of an American. That's the problem.
No, I agree completely. You're exactly right. There is an American mind still there. Because it's embedded in human nature, and that's what the founders recognized. They didn't make this up. But it really depends upon there being an American spirit And these ideas, these are not like academic highfalutin ideas. They have to be embodied in citizens, which is why what we call civic education is so important. Don't think of that as some high academic thing. This is a common sense notion. What it means to be self-governing. What are your responsibilities as a citizen? What does it mean to be a citizen? How do you treat other citizens? How do you uphold the rule of law? All of these things become crucially important. So the important thing to do is for this year in 2026, this is a great opportunity. Take your kids, your family, your friends to places or read books or get caught up on history. And there's going to be this great celebration. Great time to learn something again about the American founding, about American history. And you'll learn that story because it's so front and center. It's the spirit and character of these men and women wanting to self-govern. They don't want to be ruled by British regulators and administrators. They want to be free. And it's a powerful story, and it tells itself. And I try to tell it in the context of how that story creates and becomes and is the Declaration of Independence, and thus the American mind. That's exactly the story I tell in my book.
And now you watch a buffoon, a moron, someone drunk on antidepressants, Merlot, and lip fillers, posing as a governor in New York, say how patriotic it is to pay taxes. She must be completely void of any knowledge to understand this whole reason we are America is to protest taxes on tea, right, which was insignificant. And they went to war with arguably the most feared military on the planet at the time. And they won. And now here, fast forward 250 years, this is the same speak of the slave mindset. And when we talk about the Declaration of Independence, I mean, I love it. And the people who put it together, they were kids in the grand scheme of things. Right
yes,
now,
they were.
How many of those founders would be covered by Obamacare? Is it 40% of them? Right now. So
right. You
look at the way in which we've devolved as a society to have expectations of knowledge among the young. And you realize we have to, in my opinion, it is time now to take advantage of the fact of what we are as a republic. I believe the republic was created so that if, in fact, the government had become bastardized in very specific, very corrupt areas, let's call it Democrat-run areas like Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and the rest of it, there is a provision in there, a nonviolent provision for secession. I really do believe that. And I'm curious. I'm going to take advantage. I know this is not what your book is about, but I'm never going to get to talk to somebody who's such an expert right. in the principles of what we are. This is time now for me. There is time to separate. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to be around it. Either declaration, we have the technology, where you may not even have to do logistic. Pick your poison. But isn't it time now to pull that safety, to pull that exit cord now?
Well, I think what it definitely is time is to go back to the principles of the Declaration, which do say that one of the self-evident rights is the right of the people
to break the political bans.
Secure these rights to alter or abolish that form of government and institute a new form of government.
So let's say me and you, we do it now. You could be the president. You got all the letters, and I'll be the vice president. We do it now.
But the point is, you got to do it. The right to do that is not merely the right to blow things up and throw things off and get rid of things. It's to reestablish the proper understanding and the proper security and protection of those fundamental rights recognized in the Declaration. That's the most important thing, and that's what we got to remember, because then what we do to do that becomes a prudential question. Do we split up? Do we try to save the government? I think there are actually a lot of Americans out there that want to hear the story about America. I don't think this debate's been lost yet. I don't think that we've come to the point where we can't win massive amounts of the country back to these ideas, but we are actually definitely in a societal, civilizational fight exactly over these principles, and that I agree with you with.
And the point of what our Constitution is supposed to be is the absence of violence. It's not supposed to be violent. After all, we're based on civility. We're based on the knowledge of what a free man and an individual is. We're based on self-governing. What the hell is that? And we're based on representative republic. There are 535 scoundrels right now that if you and I were very rich and very smart, we could buy right now like chiclets at a grocery store. We could buy them. We could buy the votes. It's been happening for all these years. The last 50 years really is overwhelming how corrupt not just the people are, how corrupt the politician is, the representative is. So when you look at Mitch McConnell, when you look at Chuck Schumer, it's repulsive to me when you think about all of the things you teach these kids, thank God you do, and all of the principles you write books on. I'm curious to know, when you look at these lawyers that make up our government, the 535 outside of the president and vice president, how many of them you think understand what you teach on a daily basis at Hillsdale?
Right. Very few. I bet I can count them on one hand at most. You're absolutely right. We've lost, our leadership is not adequate to these ideas, which is why it really is up to the people who I think naturally recognize this. We need to build back that basis. And this anniversary, big 2026, big 250th anniversary, we have a lot of people's attention because it's the anniversary declaration. Is it time to push that and remind people that history, those truths, those rights, that mooring.
All right, give me your top three. Who are your top three? Who are your favorites? Locke, Voltaire, Rousseau.
In terms of thinkers in the Declaration, Locke was clearly the most influential when it comes to the Americans. Algernon Sidney is actually quite good. That British Enlightenment is the one that really influences the Americans more than, say, and some of the Scottish Enlightenment, less so than the French Enlightenment, the Continental Enlightenment. So I like those guys because they're naturally create toleration and limited constitutional government and those kinds of things. The Americans themselves were Enlightenment figures as well, I like them best of all.
How about Newton? You want to talk about wicked smart? He's the guy who figured out everything. And all he gets credit for is getting hit in the head with an apple. See, this is the problem.
Exactly. Gravity.
This is the problem.
Exactly.
Listen, I've so enjoyed talking to you. I cannot wait to go through the new book, The Making of the American Mind, the Story of Our Declaration of Independence. Professor Matthew Spalding, where's the best place to buy this new book?
Everywhere. Amazon is probably the easiest place to get it on your app. So it's all out there, doing very well and readily available.
Now, does Hillsdale still have the online classes and tutorials?
They do.
I think that was absolutely invaluable.
We have more of those. And they're all free. And you can get those at hillsdale.edu.
Thank you for making
all of
time.
our classes online.
It's a great institution. And I got news for you. Even though I didn't send my kids there, that's how they got through school. I used to force those videos on them. So thank you. And everybody at Hillsdale. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. All right.
We'll be back
Bye-bye.
with your calls and comments.
Broadcasting from the petri dish of corruption known as the state of Illinois.
In the upper Midwest, the nation, and around the world.
This is the Sean Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
What happens when a school is truly built around teenage girls? Their growth, their confidence, their faith, their future? You get bold young women who lead without hesitation, speak without fear, and discover exactly who they're meant to be. Rosary College Prep in Aurora is the only all-girls college prep high school in the western suburbs, and we've been doing this since 1962. We know how girls learn best. That's why our students thrive in STEM, the arts, and leadership at remarkable rates, even earning AP Platinum status from the College